The giant space station spun slowly in the darkness. It was bigger than any city on Earth. Ships from 17 different alien species were docked at its many ports. Each ship looked strange and wonderful. Some glowed with bright colors. Others had shapes that hurt the eyes to look at. Inside the station, the main meeting hall buzzed with noise. Hundreds of aliens sat in rows of seats that curved around a central stage. They clicked, chirped, hummed, and made sounds that no human throat could make. The air smelled of chemicals and flowers that did not exist on Earth. Lisa Carter walked slowly toward the speaking platform. She was 50 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. Her blue uniform wore the flag of Earth on one shoulder. Every step echoed in the huge room. She could feel thousands of alien eyes watching her. Behind the glass wall that separated the meeting hall from space, a human warship waited. The USS Defiance looked small next to the alien vessels. Its gray hull showed scars from many battles. Burn marks covered its sides where enemy weapons had hit. To human eyes, it looked tough and ready for war. To the aliens, it looked old and weak. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship. He was a tall man with short brown hair and serious green eyes. He had fought pirates and rebels for 10 years. His hands were steady as he watched the alien meeting through the ship's cameras. His crew of 200 humans waited at their stations. Zephyrian Prime Minister stood up in the meeting hall. His body was made of living crystal that caught the light and threw it in all directions. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "The humans want to join our alliance," he said. His words were translated into every language. In the room, but look at their technology. They still use fusion engines like children playing with fire. Their weapons shoot metal slugs like ancient hunters. Laughter filled the room. It was not the warm laughter of friends sharing a joke. It was the cold laughter of the strong mocking the weak. The sound made Lisa Carter's jaw tighten, but she kept her face calm. Admiral Vex of the Corothan Empire rose from his seat. He was 8 feet tall with purple skin and 6 arms that ended in tentacles. His ship was the biggest in the fleet, longer than 3 city blocks and covered with organic armor that looked alive. "Our scouts have studied their vessel, Admiral," Vex said. His tentacles moved as he spoke, making gestures that meant contempt in his culture. "It carries bullets made of metal and lasers weaker than our mining tools. Perhaps we should give them toys instead. Our children have better weapons." More laughter echoed through the hall. Some aliens made hissing sounds that meant the same thing. Others flashed colors on their skin that showed amusement. The ethereal collective speaker was different from the others. It had no solid body, just pure energy held inside a crystal shell. When it laughed, the crystal glowed brighter and made musical sounds. "How charming," the energy being said. "They traveled 3 years to reach us with their slow ships. They must have started the journey when their planet was still covered in ice." The joke was not true, but it made the aliens laugh harder. Earth was not covered in ice, but the humans had indeed taken 3 years to reach this distant part of space. Their ships were much slower than alien vessels. On the bridge of the Defiance, Morrison's crew listened to every word. The translation computers worked perfectly, so they heard energy insult clearly. Some of the younger officers clenched their fists. Others looked angry enough to fight. Lieutenant Commander Amy Brooks sat at the communication station. She was 30 years old with red hair and freckles. She had studied alien languages for 5 years before this mission. Now she watched the meeting with growing anger. "Sir," she said to Captain Morrison, "Ambassador Carter is asking for permission to show them what we can do." Morrison nodded slowly. He had expected this moment. The aliens thought humans were weak because their technology looked simple. They did not know about the secret weapons hidden inside the Defiance. Earth's scientists had worked for 20 years to build them. "Tell the ambassador she has full permission," Morrison said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard as steel. "Tell her to show them everything." In the meeting hall, Lisa Carter finally reached the speaking platform. She looked out at the hundreds of alien faces. Some looked like animals from Earth. Others were so strange that human words could not describe them. All of them were looking at her with the same expression. They thought she was a joke. "Honored representatives," Carter said. Her voice was clear and strong. "Humanity has come here seeking friendship and alliance. We offer our technology and knowledge to help build a better galaxy." The Zephyrian Prime Minister made a sound like breaking glass. It was laughter. "What technology?" he asked. "What knowledge?" "You burn chemicals to move through space. You fight with metal and fire. Our ancestors used such primitive tools 1,000,000 years ago." Carter smiled for the first time since entering the room. It was not a friendly smile. "Perhaps you would like to see a demonstration," she said. "We have prepared a small show for your entertainment." The aliens looked at each other with amusement. A demonstration from the primitive humans might be worth watching, if only for laughs. Admiral Vex waved his tentacles in a gesture that meant agreement. "Very well," he said. "Show us your metal bullets and chemical fire. We will try not to fall asleep." The laughter that followed was even louder than before. But Carter's smile grew wider. She touched a small device on her wrist. "Captain Morrison," she said, "you are cleared for demonstration. Show them what humans can really do." Far away on the bridge of the Defiance, Morrison received the message. He looked around at his crew. These men and women had followed him across the galaxy. They had fought and bled and died for humanity. Now it was time to show the universe what they were really made of. "All stations, prepare for demonstration," Morrison announced. "Load the special weapons. Charge the new system. It's time to teach these aliens about human ingenuity." The ship began to hum with power as systems came online. Hidden weapons emerged from secret compartments. Energy readings spiked as the crew prepared weapons that no alien had ever seen before. The demonstration was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. The alien fleet moved through space like a parade of monsters. Admiral Vex's ship led the way. The Corathan dreadnought was 3 miles long and covered in living armor that pulsed with purple light. Behind it came ships from 16 other species. Some looked like giant fish swimming through the stars. Others were perfect spheres that spun as they moved. The human ship Defiance looked tiny next to them. It was only half a mile long and painted gray like an old battleship. Burn marks and dents covered its hull. The aliens thought it looked pathetic. "There," said Admiral Vex, pointing with one of his 6 arms. "A target for your demonstration." In the distance, an old mining station drifted dead in space. It had been abandoned for hundreds of years. The metal framework was twisted and broken, like the skeleton of a giant beast. It was as big as a small city, with towers and platforms jutting out in all directions. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Defiance, studying the target through his ship's cameras. The mining station was perfect for what he had planned. It was big enough to make an impressive show, but far enough for many planets to be safe. "All alien ships, please move to a safe distance," Morrison announced over the radio. "At least 50 miles from the target. We do not want anyone to get hurt." The aliens laughed at this warning. What could the primitive human ship do that would be dangerous at 50 miles? Their own weapons could destroy the mining station from 1,000 miles away. But they moved back anyway, more out of curiosity than fear. Admiral Vex positioned his ship where he could get the best view. Other alien captains did the same. They wanted to record this demonstration to show their friends later. It would make good entertainment. "Begin recording," Admiral Vex told his crew. "This footage will amuse our people for years to come." On the Defiance, Commander Pete Sullivan checked his weapons one last time. He was a short man with black hair and quick hands. He had been Morrison's weapons officer for 8 years. He knew every gun and missile on the ship. "All systems ready, Captain," Sullivan reported. "Main cannon charged, missile tubes loaded. The special system is online and waiting." Morrison nodded. The special system was the real reason they were here. The other weapons were just for show. Earth scientists had spent 20 years building something that would change everything. Today, the galaxy would see it for the first time. "Lieutenant Brooks, open a channel to all ships," Morrison ordered. Amy Brooks pressed buttons on her console. Her red hair caught the light from the screens around her. She had been nervous during the meeting with the aliens, but now she felt excited. Finally, the universe would see what humans could really do. "Channel open, sir," she reported. Morrison spoke into his microphone, knowing that hundreds of alien captains were listening. "We will begin with our standard weapons. Please observe carefully." He turned to Sullivan. "Fire the main cannon." The Defiance shuddered as its biggest gun fired. A rod of tungsten metal shot out at incredible speed. It was moving so fast that it looked like a beam of light. The rod hit the mining station's central tower and punched straight through. Metal exploded in all directions as the projectile kept going, flying off into deep space. The alien observers made dismissive sounds. They had similar weapons on their own ships. Some were even more powerful. The Zephyrian Prime Minister sent a message to his fleet. "Kinetic projectiles," he said, sounding Lord. "Our ancestors used such weapons before we learned to manipulate energy itself." Morrison smiled grimly. "Fire missile barrage," he ordered. Dozens of missiles streaked away from the Defiance. They left trails of fire as their chemical engines pushed them toward the target. The aliens watched with amusement. Chemical rockets were so primitive. Why did humans still use such old technology? Missiles hit the mining station in a series of bright explosions. Nuclear fire bloomed like deadly flowers. Pieces of metal flew in all directions. Entire sections of the station were torn away and sent spinning into space. Impressive by Stone Age standards, Admiral Vex transmitted to his fleet. His tentacles moved in patterns that meant contempt. "Though I have seen mining equipment that could do the same thing." Other alien captains sent similar messages. Some laughed at the human weapons. Others felt sorry for the primitive species that had traveled so far to embarrass themselves. Morrison listened to their comments through the translation system. Each insult made him angrier, but he kept his face calm. Soon they would not be laughing. "Now," he said quietly, "show them what humans really bring to the galaxy." He turned to face his entire crew. Every man and woman on the bridge looked at him with trust and pride. They had followed him across the stars. They had fought impossible battles and won. Now they would make history. "Activate the quantum disruptor," Morrison commanded. Sullivan's hands moved over his controls like a pianist playing a concert. Deep inside the Defiance, machines that no alien had ever imagined began to wake up. Energy flowed through circuits made of materials that did not exist anywhere else in the galaxy. The ship began to glow with blue light. It started at the front and spread backward like water flowing uphill. The light was not normal. It seemed to bend space around it, making the stars look twisted and strange. "Quantum field generator online," Sullivan reported. His voice was tight with excitement and fear. Even he did not fully understand the weapon he was about to fire. "All safety systems active. Target what remains of the station," Morrison ordered. "Full power." The alien observers suddenly stopped laughing. Their sensors were screaming warnings. The energy readings from the human ship were impossible. No vessel that small should be able to generate so much power. The ethereal collective's representative began to pulse with alarm. Its crystal shell flickered like a broken light. Something is wrong, it transmitted to the other ships. Their energy output is reaching capital ship levels. Admiral Vex stared at his instruments in disbelief. The numbers could not be right. The primitive human ship was producing more energy than his own dreadnought. But his sensors did not lie. "Impossible," he whispered. "No species has ever achieved such power levels in a ship that size." On the Defiance, Morrison watched the energy readings climb higher and higher. The new weapon was ready. It was time to show the galaxy what human science could accomplish. "Fire," he said simply. A beam of twisted space shot out from the Defiance. It was invisible to the naked eye, but every sensor in the alien fleet detected it. Where the beam touched the mining station, something impossible happened. The metal did not explode or melt or vaporize. It simply stopped existing. Piece by piece, the massive station was being erased from reality itself. Within seconds, millions of tons of metal and rock had vanished completely, leaving only empty space behind. The aliens watched in horror as their understanding of physics crumbled before their eyes. The blue light around the Defiance grew brighter. It was not normal light. It made the stars look bent and twisted. Space itself seemed to ripple like water around the human ship. The alien captains watched their instruments with growing fear. Deep inside the Defiance, machines hummed with power that should not exist. The quantum disruptor was fully active now. It was a weapon that used the most basic forces of the universe as ammunition. Human scientists had spent decades learning how to tear holes in reality itself. "Commander," Sullivan watched his control panels with nervous eyes. Numbers scrolled past faster than he could read them. Energy levels climbed higher and higher. The weapon was working perfectly, but it still scared him. No human had ever fired the disruptor at full power before. "Quantum field stable," he reported to Captain Morrison. "All containment systems are holding. We can maintain this for 10 minutes. "Safely," Morrison nodded. 10 minutes would be more than enough. The aliens were about to learn that humans were not the primitive species they had thought dot in the alien fleet. Panic was spreading like wildfire. Admiral Vex's tentacles writhed with fear as he stared at his sensor readings. The human ship was producing energy that broke the laws of physics. It was impossible, but it was happening right in front of him. "All ships raise shields," Vex ordered. "Maximum power to defensive systems." The Corathan dreadnought's living armor began to glow as it charged its most powerful defenses. The ship was 3 miles long and built to fight entire fleets. Its weapons could destroy planets. But Vex was afraid of the tiny human vessel. The Zephyrian Prime Minister's crystal body flickered with worry. His ship was moving backward, trying to get more distance from the Defiance. Other alien captains were doing the same thing. Ships that had seemed confident minutes before were now running away. "This is impossible," the Prime Minister transmitted to his fleet. "No species has ever achieved stable quantum manipulation. The energy requirements alone should have destroyed their ship." The ethereal collective's representative was pulsing with alarm. Its energy patterns showed pure terror. "They are manipulating the basic structure of space and time," it warned. "This goes against everything we know about physics." On the bridge of the Defiance, Morrison watched the alien fleet retreat. Some ships were moving so fast, they looked like they were running. For their lives? The mighty dreadnought that had seemed so threatening was backing away like a frightened animal. "Sir," said Lieutenant Brooks, "we are receiving dozens of messages from the alien ships. They want to know how we built this weapon. Some are asking if we want to negotiate." Morrison almost smiled. Minutes ago, these same aliens had been laughing at human technology. Now they were begging for information and offering to make deals. "Tell them we are not finished with our demonstration," Morrison replied. "They wanted to see what humans could do. Now they will see." He turned to Sullivan. "Increase power to 50%. Target the debris field where the mining station used to be." Sullivan's hands moved over his controls. The blue light around the ship grew even brighter. The quantum field expanded, reaching out like invisible fingers to touch the scattered pieces of metal floating in space. Where the field touched the debris, the metal simply vanished. Not destroyed or melted, but completely removed from existence. It was as if the pieces had never been there at all. Even the atoms that made up the metal were gone, leaving perfect empty space behind. The alien observers watched in horror as their sensors detected the impossible. The quantum field was spreading outward from the target area. It was consuming everything in its path, including the tiny particles of dust and gas that floated between the stars. "The field is self-sustaining," reported the science officer on Admiral Vex's ship. His voice shook with fear. "It is feeding on the quantum energy of space itself. At this rate, it could expand for days before burning out." Vex felt his blood turn cold. A weapon that could erase matter from existence was bad enough, but a weapon that could keep growing on its own was the stuff of nightmares. If the field became too large, it could consume entire star systems. "Human vessel," Vex transmitted on all frequencies. "Please shut down your weapon. The quantum field is expanding beyond safe parameters." Morrison heard the fear in the alien admiral's voice. It was the same fear he had heard from human enemies when they realized they were outgunned. The difference was that these aliens commanded fleets that could destroy planets. "The field will dissipate naturally in a few hours," Morrison replied calmly. "Our computers have calculated the safe expansion rate. There is no danger to your ships if you maintain current distance." This was partly true. The quantum field would eventually burn out on its own. But Morrison did not mention that Earth scientists were not completely sure how long it would take. The weapon was still experimental, after all. The Defiance continued to glow with blue light as the quantum disruptor maintained its field. Small asteroids that drifted too close to the effect simply vanished. The space around the former mining station was becoming completely empty, cleaner than the void between. "Galaxies. Reduce power to 20%, Morrison ordered. "Let them see we have full control." The blue light dimmed slightly. The quantum field stopped expanding and began to contract. The alien captains watched their instruments with relief as the impossible energy readings started to drop. But the relief was mixed with a new emotion: respect. The humans had not only built a weapon that violated the laws of physics, they had perfect control over it. They could make it stronger or weaker at will. They could turn it on and off like a simple flashlight. "Impressive," transmitted the ethereal. Collective's representative. Its voice was much quieter now. "Your species has achieved something that our greatest scientists said was impossible. How long have you possessed this technology?" Morrison smiled for the first time since the demonstration began. "Long enough to build it into our newest warships," he replied. "The Defiance is just the beginning. We have vessels specifically designed around quantum manipulation technology." This was not entirely true. The Defiance was actually humanity's most advanced ship. But Morrison wanted the aliens to think that humans had entire fleets of quantum-armed vessels. Fear was a powerful diplomatic tool. The alien fleet continued to retreat as the blue light around the Defiance slowly faded. The quantum disruptor was powering down, but its message was clear. Humanity was not the primitive species the aliens had thought. They were something much more dangerous. In the meeting hall of the space station, Ambassador Carter watched the demonstration through the giant windows. The other aliens in the room were completely silent. No one was laughing anymore. They were, all staring at the human ship with a mixture of fear and respect. Carter smiled as she prepared to address the Galactic Council again. The negotiations were about to become much more interesting. The Galactic Council meeting hall was silent for the first time in centuries. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in their seats without making a sound. The massive room that had been filled with laughter and mockery just hours before was now as quiet as a tomb. Ambassador Lisa Carter stood at the speaking platform, looking out at the sea of alien faces. Every eye was focused on her. The fear was so thick she could almost taste it. These beings who had ruled the galaxy for millions of years were now afraid of a single human woman. The recording of the demonstration played on screens throughout the room. The aliens watched the mining station disappear over and over again. They saw the quantum field spread outward, consuming everything it touched. They saw space itself bend and twist around the human ship. The Zephyrian Prime Minister's crystal body had stopped glowing. His voice was barely a whisper when he finally spoke. Your species has developed technology that should not exist. You have found a way to manipulate the basic forces of creation itself. Carter nodded calmly. Humans have always been good at solving problems that others thought were impossible. We see challenges where others see barriers. The quantum disruptor is just the beginning of what we can achieve. Admiral Vex's image appeared on the main screen. His tentacles were curled tight against his body, a sign of deep stress in his species. Behind him, the bridge of his mighty dreadnought looked small and fragile compared to what they had just witnessed. The quantum field is still active, Vex reported. Our sensors show it consuming microscopic particles in the target area. At current rates, it will burn out in 6 hours, but the space it has touched will remain empty for decades. The ethereal collective's representative dimmed to barely visible levels. We must know how this is possible. Our greatest minds have studied quantum mechanics for eons. We believed that stable quantum manipulation was impossible without destroying the device itself. Carter smiled slightly. Perhaps that is because you were thinking about the problem in the wrong way. Humans approach science differently than other species. We are willing to try ideas that seem crazy or dangerous. This was true. The quantum disruptor had been built by scientists who were willing to risk everything. They had performed experiments that other species would have considered suicidal. 3 research stations had been destroyed during development. Hundreds of scientists had died, but humans had kept trying until they succeeded. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Morrison received a priority message from Earth. The transmission had taken 3 years to reach him, but it contained important news. Earth's military had been busy while he was traveling to alien space. Captain, the message said, you are authorized to reveal additional capabilities if necessary for diplomatic purposes. The quantum disruptor is no longer our most advanced weapon. Project Starbreaker is now operational. Morrison's eyes widened. Project Starbreaker was theoretical when he left Earth. If it was now operational, humanity had achieved something that would terrify the aliens even more than the quantum disruptor. He opened a secure channel to Ambassador Carter. Lisa, you have permission to tell them about our other projects. Earth wants them to know we are not just a one-trick species. Carter received the message through her earpiece. She nodded slightly and turned back to the alien council. The quantum disruptor is not humanity's most advanced weapon. It is simply the one we are willing to demonstrate publicly. The aliens began to murmur among themselves. If the impossible weapon they had just seen was not the best humanity could do, what other horrors did the species possess? The Corathan military advisor stood up on shaking legs. What other capabilities do humans possess? We must know for the safety of all species. Carter considered her words carefully. We have developed ways to manipulate stellar physics. We can cause stars to burn brighter or dimmer. We can redirect solar wind. We can even trigger controlled nova events in dying stars. This was not entirely true. Project Starbreaker was designed to disrupt star formation in nebulae, not destroy existing stars. But the aliens did not need to know the exact limitations of human technology. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens jumped to their feet, making sounds of fear and outrage. Some species had survived for millions of years by hiding in the dark spaces between stars. The idea that humans could manipulate stellar physics was their worst nightmare. "Impossible," shouted the Methane Collective's representative. "No species has ever achieved such power. It would require energy levels that could power entire galaxies." "Human. Science is based on efficiency, not brute force," Carter replied. "We have learned to achieve maximum results with minimum energy. A small push applied at the right time and place can move mountains." This was actually true. Human scientists had always been good at finding elegant solutions to complex problems. While other species built bigger and bigger machines, humans found ways to accomplish the same goals with smaller, smarter technology. Admiral Vex's voice crackled over the communication system. "If humans can manipulate stars, why did you come here seeking alliance? You could conquer the galaxy if you wanted." Morrison answered this question himself. "Because conquest is not the human way. We came here seeking friendship and cooperation. We want to share our knowledge and learn from yours. But we will not be treated as inferiors or laughed at because our technology looks different." The alien representatives looked at each other with new understanding. The humans had not come to threaten anyone. They had come in peace, hoping to join the galactic community. But when they were mocked and dismissed, they had shown their true strength. The Zephyrian Prime Minister's crystal body began to glow again as he made his decision. The Galactic Council calls for an immediate vote on human membership. All in favor of granting full alliance status to the human species? Every hand, tentacle, and appendage in the room rose into the air. The vote was unanimous. Not a single alien representative voted against human membership. "The motion passes," the Prime Minister announced. "Humanity is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Alliance, with all rights and privileges thereof." Carter bowed politely to the assembled aliens. "Humanity accepts this honor and looks forward to working with all member species for the betterment of the galaxy." As the meeting ended, the aliens began to file out of the chamber. They spoke in hushed tones about the demonstration they had witnessed. Word would spread quickly through the galaxy. Within days, every species would know about the humans and their impossible weapons. The Defiance prepared to return to Earth, its mission complete. The quantum disruptor was powered down and secured. The ship looked small and battered again. But appearances were no longer deceiving anyone. Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the alien fleet disperse. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "It's time to go home." As the Defiance jumped into hyperspace, it left behind a galaxy that would never again underestimate the power of human ingenuity. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun.